Hey everyone, welcome. If you're prepping for the Azure 104 exam or, actually running a real Azure environment, you already know that just spinning up resources is only the beginning. The real work, the critical part, is knowing what's actually happening inside that environment. So today we're going to dive deep into monitoring and maintaining your Azure resources. This is a huge part of the exam, and it's absolutely everything in the real world. So let's just jump right in with a scenario we've all been there, right? The phone rings, users are complaining the app is slow, and you need answers like yesterday. How do you figure out what's going on? This is that moment where monitoring stops being some boring task and becomes your single most important tool for finding the truth. It's how you get answers when the pressure is on. Every Azure admin really faces this fundamental choice. Are you going to be a firefighter, always reacting to emergencies after they happen? Or are you going to be a fire marshal, proactively using data to stop those fires from ever starting in the first place? The goal isn't just about pretty dashboards. It's about achieving what we call observability, truly understanding the health of your systems all the time. Now, Azure Monitor isn't just a single tool. It's a whole framework that's designed to take you from those blind spots to real insight. It really boils down to this logical four-step process. First, you've got to collect the raw data, all the signals and telemetry your resources are putting out. Step 2, you analyze that data, you visualize it, you look for patterns. Third, you automate your response with alerts. And finally, you use Azure's built-in smarts to constantly optimize your whole setup. We're going to walk through all 4 of these. Okay, and this is absolutely critical. Before you can analyze a single thing, you have to get your head around the 2 basic types of data Azure Monitor works with: metrics and logs. Knowing the difference, and more importantly, knowing which one to use in a given situation, is the key to solving problems fast. And trust me, this comes up all the time on the AZ-104. This slide breaks it down perfectly. Just think of your car's dashboard. Metrics are like your speedometer. They give you a quick, simple number in real time, like CPU is at 95%. It tells you what is happening. Logs, on the other hand, they're like the detailed diagnostic report your mechanic pulls from the engine computer. They give you all the rich, detailed info, the error messages, the sequence of events that tells you why it's happening. And where do all those super detailed logs end up? They land right here in what's called a log analytics workspace. This is basically your central data lake for all the log data across your entire environment. Now, to ask questions of this data, you use this really powerful language called Kusto Query Language, or KQL. For example, you could run a simple query like Azure Activity, where operation name value equals microsoft.compute/virtual machines/restart/action. And bam, you instantly see who has been restarting your VMs. It's incredibly powerful stuff. So how do you actually hook up a resource to this central bucket? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You use something called diagnostic settings. For almost any resource in Azure, you just go into its settings, click on Diagnostic Settings, and create a new rule to send its logs and metrics over to your log analytics workspace. It's the standard, easy way to pipe all that valuable data into one central place for analysis. Okay, now here is a huge tip for the exam, so listen up. There's a special kind of log called the activity log. It's different. It doesn't track what's happening inside a resource, like CPU usage. Nope. It tracks actions taken on the resource at the management level, things like creating a resource group, stopping a VM, or deleting a storage account. If an exam question asks who rebooted the server, the answer is always in the activity log. All right, so we're collecting all this amazing data, but, just staring at dashboards all day isn't the goal. The next level of maturity is to get Azure to watch the data for you and tell you when something's going wrong, ideally way before your users start calling. This is where proactive alerting comes in. The absolute core of this whole system is the alert rule. And the best way to think about it is as a simple if statement. You just define what you're watching, like a specific VM, and then you set the condition. If the CPU on that VM goes over 90% and stays there for 5 minutes, then what? Then an action group gets triggered. The action group is the other half of this puzzle. It's your then statement. It defines exactly what should happen when that alert fires. You can set it up to send an email to your team, fire off an SMS to the on-call person, or even trigger a webhook that runs a script to try and automatically fix the problem. So, putting it all together, here's the entire flow. You start with your data on the left, a metric or a log. You create an alert rule in the middle, which is your if condition, and when that condition is met, it fires an action group on the right, which is your then response. Data, condition, action. That's the whole workflow.
Now, beyond just watching your own resources, a great admin keeps one eye on the health of the entire Azure platform itself. This last piece of the puzzle is all about using Azure's own intelligence to stay ahead of trouble and keep your environment optimized for cost, security, and performance.
And this slide right here, this is a classic exam trap. You absolutely have to know the difference between Azure Service Health and Azure Resource Health. The easy way to remember it is Service Health is Microsoft's problem. That's when an entire Azure service in a region has an issue. Resource Health is your problem. That's when your specific VM is down, maybe because of something you configured. They sound similar, but they are totally different. So how do you proactively find ways to make your environment better? That is exactly what Azure Advisor is for. And honestly, this is one of the most powerful tools you have. It's basically like having a team of Microsoft experts scanning your subscriptions 24/7, looking at how you're using things, and then giving you specific, actionable recommendations based on best practices. And we're not talking about vague suggestions here. Advisor gives you really concrete things to do, and it's not just the obvious stuff. It'll find these sneaky, deep-level things you might never catch, like identifying that your application is using an old, inefficient API version for a storage account that's secretly driving up your bill. That's the kind of stuff that makes a huge difference. All right, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's switch gears and do a quick rapid-fire recap, just like you'd see on the exam, to make sure these concepts really stick. Okay, first one, take a second and think about this. An administrator manually reboots a VM and you need an alert to fire. Where are you going to look for that event? Is it a metric? Is it a log from inside the VM? What is it? The answer is the activity log. Remember the rule. The activity log is for who did what and when. A reboot is an administrative action taken on the VM, not a performance counter from the VM. So you have to build that alert on top of the activity log. All right, next one. Classic scenario. Your boss comes to you and says, we need to lower our monthly Azure bill. There are a lot of tools you could use, but what's the single best service to go to first to get real actionable recommendations? Yup, the answer is Azure Advisor. While cost management is great for looking at past spending, Azure Advisor is the proactive tool that literally tells you how to save money. It finds those idle resources and tells you where you can buy reservations. When it comes to optimization, always start with Advisor. And that is our deep dive into monitoring and maintaining Azure resources. I know it's a huge topic, but I really hope this helped connect the dots between all the key services. To keep your studies going, make sure you subscribe and check out the other explainers in our AZ-104 series. And hey, do me a favor, drop a comment below and let me know what part of Azure monitoring you find the most confusing. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching.